Welcome, everybody. My name is Aimee, and we are thrilled to be bringing Abbie Sophia here today to talk to you all about her fertility journey and the different pieces that she went through, the struggle with being part of the Jewish community and being a religious part of the religious Orthodox modern Orthodox, and really how she anchored all of her different pieces, her story, with the experience of being a woman and being Jewish in this lovely community. And so, Abbie is someone who, I'm going to grab her right now. Abbie is someone who has not been shy about talking about her story. She's really been pretty open, and I'm not even sure why I just said that. Abbie's been extraordinarily open about her story, all over her page, and she's done that for a number of years already. But we're here today. We're going to go a little bit deeper with her and try to sort of dig out what were the impetuses for her about, hey, Abbie, about
Hi.
what were the impetus, I was just saying, what were the impetuses for you as to why you wanted to share your story and why you wanted to be so open. So we're like going back and going forwards. So Abbie, introduce yourself. Tell people who you are.
Sure. Hi, I'm Abbie Sophia. Some people know me. I'm a photographer, but I wasn't always a photographer. So yeah, I guess, where do I start? I guess I've been 5 years ago when I started on my infertility journey. I was really secretive about it. And like, I didn't know why. I was like, people kept asking me and I was like shy to talk, and like people would say comments. I'm like, I just didn't, it was like, it was hurting me that I was so secretive. So my husband, who is actually can't ever keep a secret for the life of him, like, don't trust him ever. He'll like ruin
We're,
engagements.
we're not talking about you right now.
He knows it. Like so many funny instances, and not funny, but he would like blurt out like, oh, we're doing fertility treatment, and I'd be like so embarrassed. But then I started talking about it. It was so much better. And I did 4 IUIs, which is intrauterine insemination, and none of those worked. But when I first started, I was so secretive and didn't work, and I was like so sad, and only like maybe one of my friends knew. But like, I just remember I didn't even want to tell my family. Like, sometimes it's weird, like you don't want to tell family because, like, I don't know, you don't know what they're gonna say, or like they'll say comments like, oh, I'm davening for you, and like, you get angry or resentful or who knows. So but then when I started,
Yeah.
yeah, one of my friends had made a blog, and it was called The Fruit Market. I'm sure it's still up if you look for it. And I remember reading on it, and I'm like, oh wow, like this is amazing. Like, I have so many questions. Like, and right now I'm on a different side, because for me it's like not taboo anymore. I see it all over, and I'm not like, I'm open about it. So it's like, to think back to when I was so secretive and how hard it was, because also when you're first starting to, like, I have unexplained infertility, so there was times where I was like, maybe like I don't really need to go to the doctor, like maybe I'm doing something wrong, or like maybe like I don't really have issues, like who am I to like go and talk about infertility. But I still have unexplained infertility. I have never gotten pregnant naturally, and I decided to go to the doctor because I wasn't on birth control for like years, and I never got pregnant. But then I was like, oh, maybe, I'm not timing things correctly. But when I went to my first appointment, they're like, actually, we should do some tests, and it's still, everything looked normal. So, and then when, we went right to IUIs, none of it worked. And then I started IVF, but it was by the time I got to IVF, I had started talking about it. I wrote a blog post about like my not so secret, and I talked about the IUIs and the failure, and it, at the time, it went like viral. My post, it was like shared like 400 times or something like crazy on Facebook, and everyone was messaging me about it, and by opening up, it opened up something in me that made me feel better. And then I also felt like other people benefited from it. So it was like a win-win. So, you know, also I get like when people say, oh, to me, like, oh, you're so brave and strong. Like, no, it's also selfish. Like now I'm there and like, it feels good to talk about it. And I know it's helpful for other people. Sometimes I feel even silly talking about it now because I already know about it, but you always have to remember there's people there that are suffering in silence and they don't know that there's a group of women or people or, that are there and that have gone through it and are willing to talk about it, or they're just like too embarrassed. So I don't know where I was going with that, but
yeah, no, I'm gonna just stop you for a second.
yeah.
I think that point is really really an important one, because look, you and I have been in this space for a long time already,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been talking about this stuff for years. And for us, it's kind of like old hat, like, why are we still doing this? Like, why is this still an issue? Like, and I get that sometimes too, where people come to me and they're like, how could you even begin to talk? I'm like, I've been doing it for years. It's not a big deal anymore. But there are all of those thousands and thousands and thousands of people out there who are not yet at the point where they're ready to share, even to someone close in their life, even to a best friend, or some people, family is like a place of comfort. For me, it wasn't, but for some people it is, and they're not ready to do that either. So I think that, you know, just acknowledging that everybody is at a different stage in this, and whatever your stage is at, it's okay. It's really okay. But you specifically, you chose to talk, and well before anyone was talking about this.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess everything kind of happened at the right time. Like, you know, I saw the blog post. I wrote this blog post, and then it, like, after I opened that door. But then there's always like it's really hard when you're doing fertility treatment, because when it doesn't work, you're willing to say like, okay, it didn't work. But then when it does, you're like, oh no, I'm still secretive because I don't want to like jinx it. And it's like always a hard place, because I'm also, when I am pregnant, I am pretty secretive, just because not because of like I'm her or anything. It's just like, you just never know. But I've been through so much of that, like different outcomes. Like when I was pregnant with twins, afterwards, I wish that I had told people, because I was like, I had to like be like, I'm pregnant, but it was supposed to be twins. And it's really hard because, so like, I wish I had told people that I was having twins. So when it came time for me to mourn that I could, you know, have a natural kind of conversation about it. But it's always, you know, there's always going to be different circumstances. But yeah, choosing to be open about it. I think, like, also I'm in this generation of where we, you know, you have journals online and you write stuff. And I remember, I do want to give credit to my family, because my dad, he is like an activist. So I grew up hearing him speak about issues. So for me, it was going from being married. Also, you're not like supposed to like, you know, you're not supposed to talk about like the intimacy part of your life. And this intrinsically, infertility is linked with that. And that's also why a lot of people don't talk about it, because maybe it's their husband that has an issue and they don't want anyone thinking about them in that situation. And, you know, other people are involved. So it might be embarrassing for them, even though they might be comfortable talking about it. So it's just, I guess it worked out. Everything fell into place that thank God I was able to talk about it and hopefully help people and myself.
So I just want to like delve a little bit deeper into this, because you had mentioned before, like, you know, when you first started talking about this, the fact that you needed to have treatments, the fact that you were doing IUIs, the fact that you were doing IVFs, like that you were open about. But then there's this line of like, I'm not telling people like, I'm not announcing like, hey, I'm like starting a new cycle now. Like, hey, we're getting transferred. Like I'm having a transfer tomorrow, or hey, it worked, or in your last pregnancy. I mean, for the people who saw you in public, people knew that you were pregnant, but for everyone online, and myself included, because even though you and I don't live so far away from each other, the reality is that COVID and other things, I haven't seen you in a very long time. And so it was a huge, amazing surprise that you had another baby. So where's that line for you? Where's that line?
Yeah. Part of me was like, I had opportunities to tell you, and I'm like, I'm going to surprise her.
No, this is not about me.
I know, but it was a great surprise. So yeah, also with my last pregnancy, I did it really fast after my daughter Haleli was born, because for me it was fast, because I didn't know it was only one embryo, and I didn't know if it was going to work. And then when it did work, mentally I wasn't like even ready, like to be like, it was like I did it because I thought it wouldn't work, and like I would have to do it again. And so for me, I had like to process even that I was pregnant and having another baby. Even now I have the baby, thank God, and I'm like looking at her, still processing that I have a baby. But it's like it's hard for me, as I'm like a more public figure. I'm online and people are watching me, so I think that I'm just so used to not, like, you grow up with a superstition, which I don't believe in superstition personally. I think it's detrimental to your mental health because it makes you kind of put the blame on you if anything happens. But just like also professionally, like I didn't feel comfortable putting my stomach out there, my growing belly. Some people could figure it out though, because they're like, you haven't shown any pictures of only your, like, the bottom of your body.
Right. But those people are looking
I know.
for you, for your body, like
I
whatever.
know.
Anyway,
and I don't know.
it's
Something that like I can't really explain. It's just I didn't feel like I could put it out there. Not for like jealousy reasons or anything like that. It was just also people were hiring me, and like someone said to me, like, if I knew you were pregnant, I wouldn't have hired you. So they didn't mean it in a bad way. I think that it was just like saying stuff, but I didn't want anyone thinking I like wasn't able, or they wanted to be careful around me, because I was strong enough to do it. So yeah, it's different for everybody. Some people post their bellies, and that's amazing, and I admire it, but like I just could never bring myself to do it until after. Like I love being pregnant, thank God. But and then yeah, posting about hardship is always easier kind of than posting about, like, when you post about good things, you kind of always want to be like, but it was really hard to get there. Or like, everyone has a challenge. Like it is just honestly easier posting about the hard times. Because you don't want to have to like explain yourself, and we shouldn't have to explain ourselves for the good times. But yeah, I also felt like it would be such a good surprise for the world.
And it was.
Yeah.
And it was, and it is, and it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go back for a second and just talk about the different pieces that you've had to go through in the course of your fertility journey.
Yeah.
So look, I had a couple people message me and say, why are we talking to her? Why are you spending time and talking to her? She went through her stuff, and now she has 3 kids. Like, how is that helpful for us? Like, she got that happy ending.
Right.
And the reality is that thank God you are in this position. But what people don't realize is that every story is complicated, and your story is particularly complicated with many twists and turns. I mean, you had your, the lead up to IVF, as you told us, like the 4 IUIs that didn't work, getting to IVF, getting pregnant with twins, your story, which you wrote beautifully on the Layers Project with Kira, about how it was an incredible pregnancy, and unfortunately you had to terminate one of them. And then what you were mentioning before about like the discussion with people of like, yes, this is really a wonderful thing to be pregnant, but it was supposed to be 2, and sort of those pieces. And then your pregnancy with Haleli and your pregnancy with Shefa. So my question to you is, how did Judaism, your faith, your, the pieces that you believe in, how did it anchor you through your journey? Were there times that you felt more connected, less connected, especially, when you had to terminate, and then like these other pieces when things kept failing, and even like just even what you mentioned before, like that you went into this, transfer with Shefa thinking that it wasn't going to work, and then it did. And so talk to us a little bit about like how your brain, like how you processed some of these emotions, and your relationship to God through it.
So what comes to mind, it's obviously there's so much, you could go on for days about everything, and there's a lot of twists where, when you're in the process, you're so angry, and you don't know where Hashem is and God, and you don't know how to even believe or hope. But I think what happened for me was just like hitting kind of like rock bottom. Then it took a turn in my head. So after the 4 IUIs, which some people IUIs work for them, but when you have to pay for every single one of them, it's like $2,500. It adds up. 6 years ago, it was I was going broke from all these bills. And then I did IVF, and when you do IVF, it's like, okay, it's going to work, right? So then it doesn't work and you're devastated. And I remember that was like, I was like, what? Okay, it didn't work. I did everything I could. I put 2 embryos in. It didn't work, and it was so expensive. And like, also like, you think like, why am I complaining about the expense? Like, this is something I really want, but like, you have to, like, it's part of the journey that we have been burdened with. And then, so that's when I said, okay, I'm just going to ride the wave. If it doesn't work, I had 9 embryos. They were not tested. So I didn't know if they were healthy, if they were not, but since I had no money at the time, testing costs a lot more. And I was just doing what I could. So then I put, the second 2 embryos in, and my mindset was like, okay, whatever happens, I'll do it. I'm just going to keep doing it. This is what money's for. This is why we save. And then I wrote, like, I just like kind of was trusting in Hashem and riding the wave. And I got pregnant with Eliab, and I had Eliab, and it was, it was I'd like to say pretty easy pregnancy. Little did I know what a hard pregnancy was until the next time. So that's really where, like, riding the wave, I thought, like, I had been through it all. So when I started with the second child, I actually got pregnant. I had a miscarriage at 10 weeks. I put 2 frozen embryos in. When you don't test them, I don't know if they even do 2 anymore, but for my practice, when they're not tested, they'll put 2 in. So I put 2 in, I got 1, but there was no heartbeat. And then there was a heartbeat, and then it went away, and then it came back, and it was slow to grow. And so personally for me, it was a blessing when it finally did miscarry at 10 weeks, even though it was so painful, physically, but mentally, like, if it wasn't like healthy in the first place, for me, I was okay with that. But it's also like a process, and like, it's so much time and energy, and they're telling you congratulations, and you're having mixed feelings. Like, there's so much that goes into it. So you really just have to trust something. I mean, so you trust Hashem or the doctor. And then I did it again with, the miscarriage. And then I did it again with Hillel, and I got twins. I'm like, wow, this is finally my reward. I'm a twin. I have an identical twin sister. I was so happy. And like, so at 16 weeks, I just told my twin sister that I was pregnant with twins. And then I went back. I was in LA. She's in LA. I went to the doctor, and they right away, they were like, oh, we can't see the other one. They were like trying to hide it. Oh, hi, Annie's on, my twin's on the thing. And I was like, oh, they can't see the baby. Everything's fine. And then the doctor comes in, and like, you're just like shook. At first they told me it was hydrocephaly, which means the skull or brain was enlarged, but it was twins. So there's so many mixed emotions, and just like a whirlwind of just unknown. That's really what infertility is. And then I had to go to the specialist, because 16 weeks is actually pretty far along. Even though it sounds like, oh, it's just in the beginning, it was early enough that, they could still do things. But, and that, if you wait too long, there's also laws against terminating. So they gave me the option, like, it's called a reduction when you have twins or multiples, and you reduce one of them. And if I'm going into too much detail, let me know, but trigger warning. Okay. But yeah, just there was a lot of anger at this time, and I've never, ever felt the way I felt, all of the hopes and dreams of having my own twin girls. I'm a twin again. And then also just like the ambivalence of like, I was pregnant with one, but like, how was that one okay and not the other one? And just all the emotions. And it took me about a month to like come out of that darkness. And then I started to realize, when your name is, I was supposed to have a baby, and I kept saying I was supposed to have twins, and I really was supposed to have twins, because if I didn't get pregnant with the twins, I wouldn't have had Hillel. I don't know if it would have taken, if the IVF cycle, if I only got pregnant with one, maybe it would have been the other one. Maybe Hillel would have not made it. And you just have to start making sense of things in your head, even though it doesn't make sense at all. Obviously, I wish, everything would have worked out with her. But yeah, so terminating or reducing that pregnancy was the hardest thing I've ever done. I had to do it twice. Also, it didn't work the first time. and you're watching, and I really wanted to watch it happen just to make sure like the other one was okay. And then going through, like, I got smaller and then I got bigger, and then the whole time I was pregnant with twins, so I looked like I was having like quadruplets, and everyone made comments. But that's also what gave me power. And I started doing Peloton this year, and there's a phrase that someone said, one of the instructors, like, turn your pain into power, or turn your pain into potential. So like if someone would say something, I would say I was supposed to have twins, and I know it's not twins because I had to reduce one. Like, you can teach a lot of people things when they say things to you. You have the license to give it back. And so really, like, Haleli showed me. Then I had a placental abruption, where piece of the placenta breaks off, either because of I was carrying two placentas and maybe like who knows what happened. But then I was in the hospital, and she really like, she was a miracle in the sense that also she was the one that was blocking the exit. So if Haleli was the one on top, I would have lost the whole pregnancy. So everything really worked out for me. And it is hard because, I had one phrase that I came up with was how do you, celebrate the potential life of this one baby when I had to terminate the other? Like, how do I mourn the loss of one? I'm still pregnant. And I'm sure a lot of people said like, oh, like she had to terminate, but she was still pregnant with one of them. So like, she's probably fine. It's fine. And it was fine for me, but it still was so hard because I had to, like, the physical pain of going in and having this huge needle go into you, and the doctor's telling you to stay still. And I was like, could not. It was so painful. And I had to do it twice. And then I had to have an amnio. And then even with the amnio, with all the science they have no idea if the baby's okay. They have no idea, like, they're testing for certain things, and then they call you and they say, this test is okay, but we should still test this and this and this and this. And like, at some point you're just like, there's no more, you don't even know what's going on. So yeah. Also I didn't talk about this before, but in the beginning of my pregnancy, they thought I had CMV. So I had to, and it was a false positive twice. I got 2 false positives, and that was like, and the baby can have a lot of issues. So right. That was fun.
CMV is a virus. It's cytomegalovirus, which is a virus that, anyone can get at any time. And normally you just like have a little bit of a cold, or like when you get it when you're younger, it's also like, it's basically almost nothing. But if you get it while you're pregnant, it can have severe, like
right.
severe problems. The baby can have severe problems. So
right. Yeah. So in the like 8 weeks or 9 weeks, they thought I had it, and I had to do all these testings before. It was before this thing with a neural tube defect, by the way, happens when the embryos are like in the first 4 weeks. So either I didn't take enough folic acid, which doesn't really make sense because all the other embryos are fine, but so now they think something with IVF could like kind of mutate the cell and have a neural tube defect. And so that's what Haleli's twin had. She had a neural tube defect and holes in the spine, and the brain was misshapen a little bit. So, they also come and they say, give you the option. And they're like, there's risks that are associated with reducing and terminating, but there's also risks with keeping the baby alive. So really for me, like, I made the choice to terminate and reduce the pregnancy. And you're looking online for answers for like, why did this happen, or who else has gone through this? And like, so I had already gone through IVF, and I had already gone through IUIs, and I had so many people to talk to, but like, how do I find other Jewish women that went through terminating or reducing? Like, that's not something that people are posting about, or, it was it was hard. And I posted on some groups, and people did reach out to me. And actually, a lot of women have gone through reducing triplets to one baby, but usually earlier on, like in the first couple weeks. But that even doing that, like, you fight so hard to have a baby, and then you have to reduce. It's a mental game. So I did find support, and what afterwards I kept saying, like, how do I know the baby's okay? Like, I wish it would just, in my head I really was ambivalent. I'm like, I wish the pregnancy would just end and like I could just start over. Like, and then eventually I was able to connect again and like really like realize I was still pregnant. But looking for Hashem and for connection religiously, it was hard at times, but I'm grateful in a way, because, and I think about this a lot, it brought me, I was ambivalent, but it also brought me back to life. Like, the powerful feelings that you're feeling, like sometimes you just want to sit in it, and like, those are feelings like that remind you that you're alive and what you're fighting for, and that we're humans and we're not just like you know, scrolling on our phone endlessly, like we have feelings. So it was hard, but yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I look, I know that we're talking about lots of, difficult things you've gone through, and I I really appreciate you opening up and sharing pieces of this. Look, every time, this, and this is why you and I have these conversations. We've had them offline, we've had them here.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time one of us talks about any of these difficult things, we know that there's at least one, but
Mm-hmm.
we know there are hundreds. There are people out
Yeah.
there that need to hear it because they're going through it and they haven't yet had the
Mm-hmm.
courage and they haven't found their voice, and so they need to hear it from us. So
Right.
thank you.
No, thank you. You've always been so powerful and such a role model for me. But actually, when I first posted the termination, the reduction, I just want to say there was so many people that reached out. Like you'd be shocked that they've gone through this, that they had to make this decision. People that have terminated babies at, I'm sorry to say that like that, but at 30 weeks, late. And also, they told me, like, just to keep in mind, like if I had waited couple more weeks, I wouldn't have been allowed to do it in New Jersey, even though it was medically necessary. But there were so many people that went through the same thing, which I was clueless before.
Right. Right. Tell us now, like, just like, you've been through a gazillion different kinds of fertility experiences, IUIs, IUF,
Mm-hmm.
miscarriage, termination,
Mm-hmm.
difficult pregnancies, like all of the different pieces. I mean, and all so many more things that we're not even touching on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious because, one of the things that we always get is, the crazy things, some crazy things that people have said, or
Mm-hmm.
like what you respond to them, how do you respond, and you being an outspoken person. I mean, I love the way what you said before about how when people have said things to you specifically about, your twin pregnancy, and then you say like, no, like it gives you the license to say and the license to educate. But
Mm-hmm.
can you do you remember any of the, like, some of the crazy things people have said to you?
Yeah, I mean, even especially like even from family. I mean, in the beginning, I know people go through this all the time. Like, oh, I'm dominating for you. Oh, like, did you? I remember. I hope my sister's not on here, but she's like, did you go to the mikvah? Like, why is it not working? Like, you're supposed to go to the mikvah and then you just get pregnant. Like, that's how it works.
Yeah, doesn't that always work for everyone?
Yeah. And so no, it doesn't always work that. My back, okay.
You're
People
right.
have halachic infertility. Like, no, that's even something. Anyways, so yeah, I think the craziest one was like when they said, are you having twins? And I said no, and then it's like they're like, maybe it's triplets. Like, no. I would love if it was triplets, but it was like, some elderly man. Like a lot of men like to comment on pregnant women. And I said no, I was pregnant with twins when I terminated one, so I know it's only one. What, I don't know, that's, yeah, people, I guess it's not really so memorable to me because I just like throw it back at them, but just throw it back, say, when we first started, like, I was like, yeah, we're doing infertility treatments. Like when anyone asks, like, oh, when are you having kids? I'm like, I don't know, I'll tell you when it works. Or like, oh, you want to pay for it? Like, like just, you can be sassy.
You know what, like, yes, I realized when I was asking this question that, like, for you, because you're so open about it, that the things
Mm-hmm.
that are zingers, like, to other people, don't, it's not that it doesn't bother you, but more like,
Right.
what on earth, like, stop
Yeah.
talking about this, like, you just give it back because that's who you are.
Yeah.
That's who you are.
Or I would
uh,
say, like, you could say this to me, but don't say it to anyone else because
right,
they're not going to
right, exactly,
nicely.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, so just to kind of like round out and close
Mm-hmm.
out, for people who are not yet at your stage, who are just like really sitting alone, who haven't had the strength to get up the gumption to, even, like, as we were saying before, to share with even one person yet, or for people who are just starting on this journey, what would you say to them? What advice do you have for them?
I think it's even throughout the whole thing, it's really easy to be jealous of other people, and just for anything in life, single, married, anyone that's going, like, you know, work, anything you see on social media. But I would try to like turn that into empowering yourself. And a lot of people also say, like, the reason I keep posting also is people say it gives them hope. So look for hope. But choose one person that you're comfortable with at first to talk to about it. And that could be, it's scary and it's hard and you're putting yourself out there, but if you're keeping it in, it could do a lot more pain, it could harm and pain on the inside than out. There's no answer, obviously. Like, we don't know if it's people are ever going to have babies or if they're ever going to, you know, like what, if they have to use a surrogate or adopt, or if what their journeys are going to be. So I'm not going to say it's all going to be okay, but we choose how to kind of process things in a way, like we can choose our own reaction, and just, I guess, look for the good. But I hope everyone's prayers will be answered, and I'm here for anyone if they need. And also, if you're on here and you're not in the infertility world or you haven't had any struggles, like, you're also important, and every baby is a miracle, no matter what their story is, or that you just wanted a baby. I just, you know, everyone, it's just such a miracle. So we don't take it for granted. We don't take you for granted, and don't feel bad about celebrating your own milestones, because that's important too. So
Thank you, Abbie. Yeah, I think there is, you know, people in the fertility community, often they say, like, you know, it's hard for them to look for the positive. Like, they want it, and they recognize that it's something that they want. Like, their dreams are obviously to have a baby, but it's sometimes hard for them because they've been disappointed over and over and over again. I love what you just said. Like you can look for hope. Like, hope is not positive, like, is not toxic positivity. Hope is not saying you will have a baby. Hope is not saying you will adopt. Hope is not saying you will have a baby through a surrogate. Like, that's not what hope is. Hope is that you can get through this, whatever it is, and you can work with what you have and try to come up with the next part of whatever your life is going to bring. That's what hope is.
Right. It's easy to fall into like the sadness and the pain. It's easier sometimes to just be there and have pity for yourself. I think that's what it is. I always say, like, I'm not, like, don't pity me, because I don't want to pity myself. Like, this is the reality. So I think that's also, like, yeah, looking for the hope, and then, yeah, you're important. I was going to say, after Eliav was born, my first one, I just thought about how, you know, if it had worked, the 4 IUIs and the 3 other embryos before, like, wouldn't have had Eliav. And I felt so much gratitude for that journey, because he was obviously the right one for me. It's easy to say that once they're born, but that's sometimes what we think about. Like, I always think about. And then, like, Halali, I just always, it's like, how could I ever have not, like, thought that she was going to be okay? It's just amazing. Yeah.
Life is amazing, and it has incredible twists and turns that we cannot expect and do not expect, and yet here we are. But Abbie, thank you for your voice, and thank you for your continued support. Like, look, this is, yes, you have 3 children, and thank God that you do, and they should all be well and healthy and delicious and yummy. But you have a story, and your pieces can give and do give strength to so many other things, to so many other people that are going through this. So I'm so grateful that you were able to take some time out today and share a little bit more. And everyone, please, you can reach out to Abbie at any time. She always loves talking with people, and if she can be a source of strength, I know that she's happy to do so.
I'm here for it. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Y'all are amazing. Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.